How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to Sip Talk. We are getting late into spooky season. By the time this comes out, it will probably be Halloween, past Halloween, who knows? But we're back with Final Destination 3. We are at pretty much halftime of this absolutely horrible idea that I had to watch all these movies. But, you know, we're in too deep now. And nothing says painfully average halftime like this. Not painfully average movie, but definitely comes out overall as average. I have my thoughts on this. Alex Bauer is here with us as always. He has thoughts on this. Bauer, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just came back from the amusement park, ready to go.
Did you actually just come back from an amusement park?
No, but I just thought it'd be kind of funny to open it up with that, like this movie does.
Okay, well, oh, look at that segue. But before we can get into that, we have the movie info.
Right.
All right, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't want to derail us.
Heyo. So the premise of this movie, very similar to the first two. 6 years after students cheated death, another teen has a premonition when she and her friends will be involved in an accident. When the vision proves true, the student and survivors deal with the repercussions of cheating the Grim Reaper. This movie stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Wendy Christensen. I know her as Nikki Swango from season 3 of Fargo. Elizabeth Winstead also starred in 10 Cloverfield Lane and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. She was Miles Teller's older sister in The Spectacular Now. She was Bruce Willis's daughter in multiple Die Hard spinoffs, and she was Mary Todd Lincoln in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
Up until now, this is probably our biggest star.
It's got to be our biggest star. I would put her above AJ Cook, but she's absolutely our biggest and is probably the biggest star out of all five. I'm actually not going to go too far. But
yeah, I forgot who's in the other ones, which I don't know if it's a good sign, but so far, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is the biggest star.
Yeah. Ryan Merriman plays Kevin, Chris Lameche as Ian McKinley. Ian McKinley, and great CBS specialist. We have appearances in Criminal Minds, multiple episodes of The Ghost Whisperer, NCIS LA, CSI New York, and Flashpoint. Alexis Johnson is Aaron Ulmer, Sam Easton as the lovely, wickedly talented Frankie Cheeks. Texas Battle plays Luis Romero, Shalane Simmons as Ashley Freund,
yeah.
Freund. Yanye Crystal Lowe plays Ashlyn Halpern, Jesse Moss as Jason Wise, and Gina Holden as Carrie Dreyer. This movie is directed by James Wong, the original director of the series. This movie had a budget of $25 million. It made $19.1 million on the opening weekend, placed second domestically behind the remake of The Pink Panther. Made 54 at the domestic box office and 63 million internationally for a worldwide gross of over $117 million, which was higher than both the first and second Final Destination films. The soundtrack was composed by Shirley Walker, who wrote the soundtracks of the series' previous two installments. Score mixer Bobby Fernandez created what he called a gorometer, measuring the violence of each death to ensure the score would match the scenes. I really disagreed because I was not the biggest fan of this score, if I'm being totally honest.
It was pretty generic.
Several months before the film's release, New Line Cinema set up a promotional website where visitors could download multiple phone ringtones and wallpapers related to the film. So 2006.
Absolutely. I do want to say a couple things about this cast. One, Ryan Merriman, Luck of the Irish fame. I mean, for any of people in our age, that is just a quintessential St. Patrick's Day movie, Disney Channel original movie. Gotta love that. Tony Todd, not in this physically.
Hang on. Whoa. Not any spoilers now. Hang on. We'll get to him.
He comes in. Don't worry. Don't worry, Tony Todd.
It wouldn't be Final Destination without Tony Todd.
And we get I don't know if you can call it a cameo, but at the end, one of the like boyfriend type of guys, Corey Monteith, Finn from Glee.
Huh? I didn't even. Oh wait, yeah, you're right. I just noticed that.
So a little before Glee action here.
Didn't even put two and two together there.
I just had to throw that in.
The trailer of this movie, the first time, death found them. The next time, death warned them. This time, death will finish them.
Pretty good. I do like the tagline on the poster. This ride will be the death of you.
See, I kind of like the trailer where they had like highlights of the first two movies, and then like because as this, the trailer started going, it kept kind of creeping up and up and up the roller coaster, and then we kind of got a feel for the movie. Let's jump right into it. As you said, this movie starts out as a carnival scene with a bunch of carnival activity B-roll. I did like the use of a fortune teller machine that kind of like foreshadows the deaths like the previous two movies. I wasn't a huge fan of kind of like the animated ball
Oh
running
yeah.
through the machine. That just seemed
It-
kind of unnecessary, but I did kind of like the fortune telling cards that had kind of all the future deaths in this movie.
they cut in between like actual amusement park footage and like computer animated the ball going through, and it's like it threw me off.
Yeah,
But
it was weird.
the amusement park stuff, like it really set the tone in terms of like a setting, and I really enjoyed it.
I really did enjoy that too. And I in terms of the intros to the movies, I would say this one probably had the best intro in terms of setting it
Oh,
up and meeting the characters. Because this was the first time I think we actually got to know all of the characters
I'm
beforehand.
I'm so glad you say that. I thought I was going to start off this podcast with a hot take. We talked about two having the most like iconic opening in terms of just horror in general. This is by far my favorite so far. Opening of the three so far. I loved it.
I do too, because it didn't really drag on, but I did enjoy kind of we got to know everyone, and right off the bat, they kind of snuck in kind of the whole mysterious, eerie feeling leading to the premonition. So Wendy, she's there as kind of like a senior class celebration. She has a really nice Panasonic digital camera for that time.
Hey, the
Taking
school paid for that. It's
Oh,
a
school
yearbook
definitely
photo.
paid for Yeah, she's taking photos for the yearbooks that we see. The first photo that she takes, uh, the sign for the ride says dive. It's like one of those big kind of drop rides, but in her photo, the V is cut out, so it says die. And it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of a little spooky. So she is with her boyfriend and with her boyfriend's friend Kevin and Kevin's girlfriend Carrie.
The
So
boyfriend is Jason.
yes, I totally forgot his name, but
Yeah,
it's fine. They're kind of hanging out throughout the carnival. We kind of get to see that Kevin's a bit of this kind of like wild card, goofy guy. He grabs the digital camera and takes an upskirt shot when some girl wasn't looking, which we learn isn't really the creepiest thing someone's doing with the camera, because then we get to meet Frankie Cheeks with his camcorder, and we get
as
to see him creeping on the two Ashes, Ashley and Ashlyn.
as soon as Frankie Cheeks was on the screen, I'm like, Pete's gonna love this guy. Not
Oh,
because of
oh,
not
you're
not
you're totally right.
not because of what he does or says, but because his character is so cartoonish. You know,
That is such an accurate statement, because first off, let's paint a picture here of Frankie Cheeks.
first of all, Cheeks.
Yes, Frankie Cheeks is an incredible name for just 2006 douchebag horror movie character.
Yes.
Frankie Cheeks is a hilarious name. Second, the Kangol hat, the button down shirt, the Kangol hat, the goofy ass chain is absolutely hilarious. And then we get to hear him talk.
Where you guys are right now, if you raise your hands and just cup them slightly, it'll look like you're holding the devil's balls.
And we'd want to do that. Why?
When else are you ever gonna see a dick that big?
I'm looking at one right now.
You guys are smoking hot.
Get out, Frankie. Yeah, why are you even here? Yeah, you graduated like 2 years ago.
I stuck around to monitor your development.
Because we meet Frankie Cheeks as he's kind of creeping on the two Ashes, Ashley and Ashlyn. They're kind of playing a little carnival game. And they, I would say, are your typical, attractive, kind of
Blondes.
blonde,
Attractive. Yeah.
one blonde, one brunette, attractive.
Oh yeah.
We also meet Lewis,
Right.
who is at the kind of like the strongman challenge
The-
at the carnival. He's wearing a
The
football
jock.
jersey. He's
The
the
jock.
jock. He's
Yeah.
the jock. Big ego. And then
The goth couple.
yes, we meet the we kind of meet the goth couple. They're just kind of around.
They're given the shortest amount of time, but I mean, they'll come up back later for sure.
Yeah. And then we also meet Wendy's sister, who a younger sister, like she's not a senior. It's like, does mom know you're here? And then she's just like gives her the two birds. We also learn that Carrie says she's going to dump Kevin after graduation. They're just not very compatible. After he takes an upskirt shot of some random girl like at the picnic table.
Should have broken up right there.
So she starts going towards the roller coaster, the Devil's Flight. And the devil has a very familiar voice.
I'm glad you caught it. I caught it too.
Very familiar voice of the intro. So it's a big roller coaster, and there's a giant devil statue with a giant ball sack as well. A very familiar voice. This is the beginning of the end. Now they're in line at the roller coaster. They're waiting to get in their cars, and Frankie Cheeks wants to sit next to or behind the girls. He's showing off this just like very goofy chain with a stripper pendant on it.
Like this? Want it on the wacky ladder. You know that ladder deal that wobbles? Took it. I like this. It's old school. Frankie Cheeks is old school, ladies. What's that? Oh, well, it'd be my honor.
And he gives his chain a little lick.
Okay, I think we're devoting a little too much time to Frankie Cheeks.
I don't think we're devoting enough time to Frankie Cheeks.
But anyways, I think I don't know if you caught this as well. They're doing a lot of come on, hurry up. This ride's going to be the death of me, or like I can't. A lot of the like foreshadowing.
So Wendy doesn't want to sit in the front. She's too scared. So Kevin's like, "Oh, who's gonna sit? Behind her with her?" Kevin flips the coin. Who's gonna ride back with her? It ends up being him. So he and Jason swap seats. So
there's basically like what 4 cars, 2 front cars, 2 back cars. And I would say like 12 people sit in the front, 12 people sit in the back. That's kind of how it's.
Yeah. And so then everyone's kind of lining up. They're originally going to get into the middle cars, but then the 2 Ashes sit in one of the middle ones. So then Frankie Cheeks runs up and tries to take that seat.
Big move. I was like, oh no, Get out of here, Frankie Cheeks.
Such a dick move. And then he gets in the seat and he's sitting behind the 2 Ashes. And the way he just slowly turns his Kangol hat backwards.
My favorite part is kind of jumping ahead maybe a couple of minutes is he's sitting behind them and he pulls out his camcorder to film them. But then the guy puts the seatbelt thing harness over his chest so he can't move his hands. He's like, what are you thinking? Like, you don't have the freedom to film them.
I dare you to flash me them sweet titties when we go through the loop-de-loop.
Okay, enough with Frankie Cheeks.
He's such a good character.
I'm out.
He's the perfect character for this movie.
I came in with Frankie Cheeks takes. I'm out. This is enough.
You're already out of Frankie Cheeks takes?
I'm out.
Fine. More Cheeks for me. So Cheeks takes the middle seat. So then Kevin and Wendy then go to the back. The camera pans like the hydraulics of the roller coaster. They're kind of leaking a little bit. So then we get to the premonition. So they're sitting in the back. She has her digital camera kind of taking a photo for the yearbook, but then the attendant's hand kind of gets in the way, like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, look at the sign. Like, you can't have cameras or loose objects. So Kevin puts the digital camera in his pocket. Frankie Cheeks has his camcorder. He wants to get, video of them, quote, sweet titties through the loop. So he kind of hides it in his pocket in his shirt or his jacket. So then the roller coaster finally starts. We're seeing all of our new friends go up and up and up before the drop. So it's everyone that we've met so far on the roller coaster. Or excuse me, it's everyone we've met so far at the carnival. So we have Wendy, Kevin, Jason, Carrie, Goth Couple, the two Ashes, Frankie Cheeks, Lewis. And then the roller coaster drops. Everyone's having fun. They're kind of screaming, having a good time, classic roller coaster stuff. The hydraulics are leaking a lot more. And then they go through the loop.
The loop-de-loop.
The loop-de-loop. And Frankie Cheeks, he's a man of his word. And he just screams, "Show me your titties." And then the girl's just like, "Fuck off, Frankie," and knocks the camcorder out of his hand. And the camcorder just drops and then lands at the bottom of the loop and then gets wrapped up. And then at the end of the loop, the roller coaster slams into the camcorder and then the hydraulics just burst. The safety restraints come off. Everyone's panicking. They're sparking. Wheels are coming loose. More sparks, more screaming. And then the wheels fly off. Literally, wheels are flying off. Sparks everywhere. And then the coaster splits in half, where you said like where the two cars were. And then people just go flying off. The roller coaster starts going through like a spiral. And then Lewis kind of falls off of the spiral. He's like hanging on to Kevin's arm for dear life. And then a piece of the roller coaster comes flying off and just smacks Lewis. So he goes flying just into a pole or part of the structure. When he does that, part of the structure foundation, like one of the poles, gets jolted out of place on impact. So then there's another loop, and then they get stuck upside down. The Goth Couple, they fall off because they can't hang on. And then Wendy and Kevin try to like rocket back down the loop. And so then they end up going back down the loop. So it's back down the way that they came. And then Kevin starts to fall out. He's accidentally kind of like standing up a little bit, trying to get himself back down. And then the piece of pipe that moved when Lewis hit it, it was sticking out. And then bam, Wendy's now just sitting next to a pair of legs because Kevin just gets split in half at the torso. And then the roller coaster hits a loose piece of track. Wendy goes flying, and right as she smacks into the ground, she wakes up and she is sitting in the back of the coaster right when they're told to put the cameras away.
What did you think of this craziness?
I thought it was good. In terms of premonitions, nothing's going to beat the second one, obviously.
Correct. Yep.
I still liked it better than the first one because we're seeing characters that we've already met and got some sort of idea of start, dying. Personally, I'm terrified of roller coasters.
I agree with you, and I thought this played very well into everyone's kind of fear of roller coasters. Because even if you're not afraid, like you still kind of have that inclination that like something could go wrong as you track up the roller coaster. So I think this played very well into that fear.
And I believe it's Jason who says earlier when he's trying to convince Wendy to go on, like, they say the scary thing about roller coasters is like, it's because you're not in control.
Right.
That's kind of it for me a little bit. The reason I'm terrified of roller coasters is one, I feel like I'm too tall for roller coasters.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm just going to get decapitated by accident. I've also like seen the lack of maintenance on these things, especially in these tiny ass little carnival places. I've played Roller Coaster Tycoon. I know what it's like to create a death trap and then not maintain it. And honestly, look, like I would say I've done some pretty like quote unquote like extreme things. Like when I was in New Zealand, I did like a canyon swing, which is like a bungee jump, but you're almost like sitting down. It was like a 300-foot drop, and it was terrifying. But I loved that. But you will not see me on a roller coaster. Like you won't see me at Six Flags, because if I'm gonna die, I would much rather go out in a ravine in New Zealand or somewhere on a canyon swing or a bungee jump or some shit. Because if I go out that way, then at least when they're just like, oh, how did Pete die? Someone can say, by taking it to the extreme. But like if I die at Six Flags New England, and there's like, oh, how did Pete die? And it's like, oh, funny story. He just got dismembered off a roller coaster that wasn't maintained. And they found half his body next to the slushies. They couldn't find the other one. Oh my God, no one drank the strawberry. There's been a huge mistake.
The first ride they showed in this opening, the like giant drop type of ride, is the one that freaked me out the most out of all the amusement park rides, just because like that free fall sensation. No, thank you. I always had the fear of the harness kind of like coming loose and you just go flying.
But like I feel like every like tiny ass carnival in America has one of those, and every year I see a story about one of those, like about someone like dying, getting seriously injured on. Or like there's always like I always see on like Twitter, like when people are like are ripping on Russell Wilson right now because just like Broncos Nation, let's ride. And then it's like the ride. And it's a video of one of those just not stopping and crashing into the ground.
Yeah, no, thank you. So in terms of like just playing on those kind of like universal fears that I think we have and a lot of people have, I think it does well. I do want to point out that it helps that we know these characters when the premonition happens, because then we're like, oh no, all these people are dying. It's kind of, in terms of deaths, I don't think any of these are going to make high up the rankings, just because everyone's kind of just like flying everywhere. There's something really specific. The only one that's really specific is Lewis getting like nailed.
Yeah, personally, I wasn't going to nominate any specific deaths like in number 2. I was just going to nominate the premonition. I have nothing specific to nominate through here. It wasn't a bad premonition, but nothing really stood out like the second one.
Again, I don't think you really need a lot of elaborate stuff going on when you're going on a high rate of speed, high in the air. I mean, like that just works itself out, you know?
She wakes up from the premonition. She starts freaking out. She gets off the roller coaster. And she's like, it's the classic waking up from the premonition. Everyone's just like, oh, what's her problem? Lewis calls her a bitch wanting some attention. So then he and Kevin get into a fight.
Dropping one of my top 3 line deliveries of this movie is when they go at it. And I think it's Kevin who says, fuck you, Lewis. Right? And Lewis goes back, fuck moi? In like the French accent. I was dying.
And then Erin just catches a stray in the middle of this, the goth girl.
Oh, for sure.
And that's how and that's why she gets off. And that's, I liked it better than the first one, where there's like a scuffle and people are just kind of randomly off the plane, whatever. But at least this one, like, she just catches like a forearm to the face, and then she and her boyfriend are just like, nah, fuck this, we're getting off of this roller coaster.
It felt very similar to that first one, where it's like they're fighting and then they're kicked out because they fought, and like that's the people who quote unquote survived. But I agree. I think there's a little bit more nuance to this one.
I also love the nuance of the two Ashes getting off because it's so high school. And then Frankie Cheeks gets off because he's like, oh, baby, come back. Because he just got to be behind them. So then the roller coaster starts. The whole time, Jason's just like, hey, get me out of here. That's my girlfriend. That's my girlfriend.
Carrie's just sitting there like,
they don't let him out. Carrie's sitting there just like, yeah, what the hell's going on? And then the roller coaster starts. And Wendy sees Jason is still there, but it's too late. The roller coaster crashes, and then Jason and Carrie die. So then Wendy's back at school. It's kind of like the last day. People are signing yearbooks. She's clearing out her locker. It's pitch black in that school. There's a memorial, but like the school that like your school doesn't have lights. And then Wendy's like, I'm not going to graduation. And Kevin's like, I made a promise to Jay to take care of you.
She's also like one of 4 people in the high school. Did she get there at 5 a.m. or is she there at 9 p.m.? Like, I wasn't quite getting that.
I mean, it was like super rainy and it was like very dark, but yeah, like there's no point for the lights to be off. And then Wendy's just breaking poor Kevin's heart. It's like, we wouldn't even hung out if like me and Carrie weren't friends and you and Jason weren't friends. And then the Ashes were just like, let's be nice to Wendy and let's invite her to the tanning salon. Like, here, I'm going to write down my number, my sparkling pink Sharpie. And then they invite her to the tanning salon. Wendy's just like, no, like, fuck that. And then Kevin goes to Wendy and kind of starts explaining, like, no, like what you saw, like, I get it. And then he pretty much describes the first and second movie. And Wendy's just like, no, you're crazy. Like, this is stupid. And then drives off.
I like how Kevin drops the like, yeah, I was like doing some online research and I found this Flight 180. it's it seems very random.
So then we go to the tanning salon, and it's the two Ashes death, Ashley and Ashlyn. I'm just going to keep calling them Ash because, you know,
The ashes.
the Ashes.
Yeah.
Another great line. I forget if it was Ashley or Ashlyn. And it's like, oh, I thought we are just doing like a little like 5 minute tune up. And it's like, no, like we got to go full 20 minutes. For graduation, I just want to look our best for all the kids that died.
All the kids that's good.
For
That's
all the
good.
kids that died and couldn't be here for graduation, gotta look my best. And so this entire scene, it cuts back and forth between the tanning salon and Wendy going through I believe going through like her yearbook photos in her bedroom, I believe.
So she's going through what, so the first two had like, they were like almost like psychics where they would have a vision, kind of like Raven Simone-ish, and that's so Raven. For this one, it's Wendy took a bunch of photos and like the death's premonition are all in those photos. So she's kind of going through the photos, realizing that like the photos have clues, which I thought was like a clever difference than like, no, she's just psychic again.
I'm glad you say that because yeah, this was definitely out of the three we've seen so far. I think this was the best kind of what's the word? This is the best kind of
Like way to introduce death into this.
yeah, and kind of moving the story forward instead of
Yeah.
just like the second one, hook hands. What does that mean?
Yes.
And it's like, no, like there's clues in the photos.
Right.
And the way she kind of figures it out was kind of weird. Like she kind of had a bit of a feeling when she was looking at it and she's looking at the photo of the ashes and she kind of starts to get a bit of a funny feeling.
It's a good idea plot wise and story wise. I have a problem with the photos as we get deeper into the movie, but we'll get there.
So we're back at the tanning salon. The owner of the tanning salon, Yuri, is just doing some loud Eastern European phone calls. And then the Ashes are just like, no, it's like, go outside. Like, we can handle this ourselves. And Yuri's just like, no drinks. And Ash are just like, sure, we'll throw our slushies away. But then they don't. So they bring him in. And then Yuri decides when he goes outside for his phone call, he uses a bottle of tanning lotion as a doorstop so it doesn't get locked out. And like right as he closes the door, the bottle cap breaks and lotion starts kind of oozing out. So it's like, okay, well, this is going to go horrible. So then they're in the tanning room.
Booth.
There's two booths, and Ashlyn kind of raises the temp because it's really hot.
Yeah.
And then her slushy on the table starts dripping because of the condensation.
She goes from like 68 degrees in the room to like 73. It's like, does that make that much of a difference?
Well, and then so the slushy on the table is like over like an HVAC. It's over something.
Yeah.
Some important box that shouldn't be dripped on.
That has like a meter on it and it says like 230 and then a sticker below it that says cannot go past 250.
Over 250. And then there's a CD rack over one of the tanning booths because they're like, oh, let's play some music when we're here. I do like how there's like, ew, Britney, no. But she chooses Love Roller Coaster by the Ohio Players.
Fantastic song. Also, do you know the kind of backstory behind this song or like the urban legend behind this song?
I do not. I just knew it was a good song choice and it's going to be our intro music.
Yeah, so I looked it up and I was a little bit wrong. It's actually between minute 24 and minute 28 of the single version, there's a scream, and somebody asked one of the members of this band that was someone being murdered while this to cause this scream, and like they didn't answer. And so now people ran away with that urban legend. It was like someone was being murdered in the room next to next to them while they were recording that song, and it's gone it's gone into this weird urban legend. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird, kind of a nice choice for this movie.
So they're in the tanning bed. Roller coaster.
She's jamming to it. She
They're
she she
bumping.
picked she picked up the CD and was like, "Blah," and then they put it on and they're jamming to it.
So, uh, as we can imagine, the bottle that Yuri is using as a doorstop empties and he gets locked out. And then the dripping slushy makes the machine start to spark. And then you see that number on the vac or whatever, it gets above 250, and then the thermostat in the room starts going hotter and hotter, and they're complaining, like, oh, it's getting like really hot now. And then they just start getting cooked. And at this point, Wendy tries to call them on a really good looking Motorola Razr, so 2006.
Those things are sweet.
And then there's just a random. This is the one part of the death where I'm like, like seriously, this is kind of not cheesy, but it's kind of like, how did that happen? It's like a gust from a vent that caused a coat rack to fall, which then knocked over a plant, and then it knocked over the loose CD shelf, and then the piece of wood from the shelf gets like pinned into both tanning beds so it won't open. And then Yuri's locked out, and then the two ashes are just getting cooked. And then at this point, I couldn't watch like boiling skin, like that gives me the heebie-jeebies. I can do like decapitations, I can do dismemberment.
Guts. Yeah,
but just like skin stuff. Ugh, yeah, I can't.
I think more for me, it was just being like buried alive or trapped in like an enclosed space. Like that was what really bothering me.
Yeah, that bothered me too. I have bad claustrophobia. Yeah, that's what, like, that death, I'm just like, I couldn't even watch all of it. And
it's a theme for this movie, where the final product is really gruesome and great, but it takes like three extra steps, and it's like a little too unpredictable, or not unpredictable, a little too much. Like that's a little. How did that happen?
I will say the best part about this death is that the scene finishes with an aerial shot of the two tanning beds, and then without moving, it immediately cuts to an aerial shot of two white coffins in a cemetery during a funeral. And I'm like, oh, that's good. That was fantastic cinematography.
I am standing ovation because I thought the same thing. I thought that was awesome.
The goth kid Ian kind of goes like on a rant during the funeral, has to be taken away. And then we see Frankie Cheeks again, who is just overcome with guilt. And he feels guilty that if he didn't treat these women like, quote, fun bags, then they wouldn't have to impress old Franklin Cheeks.
And then the sister, why does everything have to be about you, Frankie? Good point. Good point.
And then Frankie leans in for a kiss. Cheeks.
Hey man, he was pressing his luck at a funeral, no less.
Yeah, well, the girl who's underage. She's the little sister.
Oh, true. Good point. Oh my god.
So
Frankie.
like at a minimum, if he graduated 2 years ago and she was 1 year younger than Wendy's, at a minimum or maximum, no matter how you look at it, like he should be a sophomore, junior in college. He should have just finished up his sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
Well, she's just finishing up her junior year of high school. It's just like, Jesus, Frankie, get it together, man.
I tell you, not a good look for our guy, Frankie Cheeks. Actually, you know what? Not a good look for Frankie Cheeks, not our guy. He's not associated with me.
You make it sound like Frankie Cheeks was, the pinnacle of good morals leading up to this. I felt like this was very on brand for old Frankie Cheeks.
Oh, it's certainly on brand. He's the guy everyone laughs at for the bad reasons.
And then after that, this started to become a theme in this movie where the exposition just fucking dragged on and on and on. So like Wendy is like telling Kevin at the cemetery, she printed out the photos, and it's like something felt off when she was looking at the ashes picture. Exposition, etc., gust of wind, whatever. And they just kept talking and talking. And I just totally tuned out until all of a sudden they were back in a car.
But the conversation isn't really like exposition. It's not like moving the plot forward. It's more they're trying to get like deep with like what death means and what does life mean and stuff like that. And this movie is way more interested about killing these characters than like a story. Like they're just high schoolers, or they're just high school seniors dealing with it. That's literally the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just dragged, and I was like, oh my god. And I didn't know that would become a theme for this movie, because this happened multiple times where I'm like, let's wrap this shit up.
Well, the deaths are such high, like just high rides. If I can use a roller coaster, just you're just going up and going loop de loops all around for the deaths, and then the talking scenes where you're supposed to like get know the characters a little bit more and move the plot. They're just kind of just like boring and stale, except for my guy Lewis, who drops my second favorite line at this funeral, that he's so bored by this funeral and he doesn't like wearing suits and doesn't want to be all prepped up. And he's like, I think he tells Kevin, hey, at my funeral, can you like bring me a PSP or something?
So then Kevin's just like, oh, like you haven't probably eaten anything in days. Let's go get some food. And then we get to the death of Franklin Cheeks,
which is a surprise.
So it is a surprise. So they pull into the drive-through. There's a guy in a convertible in front of them. They are behind, and then behind them is a pickup truck, I believe. And then as they're going to the drive-through, they pass, I think it's like a moving truck that's parked on a hill.
We do have to touch on one thing about that funeral that we missed. The exposition, the photos that Wendy shows Jason are Lincoln with the head with the scratch or the cracked plate, which is like, okay, sure, whatever. And then she goes from Lincoln to the World Trade Center. And the shadow of a plane on the World Trade Center. I laughed and I felt bad for laughing because it's so ridiculous.
It was so absurd that I like forgot to put it in my notes because I didn't even realize what they were trying to do there. And I totally forgot about it. I feel like I shouldn't have forgot about it because it was that stupid, but like I remember watching it, but again, I was so tuned out and I was like, let's get to the next thing.
One, she's using photo evidence as like, wow, photos can predict death, which is like absurd and stupid. Two, they actually used a real photo of Lincoln, like that's the actual photo, and the glass negative did crack, so it's like that's true. The World Trade Center is obviously doctored. It's like you can't find like two real photos. You know what I mean? Anyways, sorry, I had to bring that up.
That's fine. That's fine. That's definitely worth bringing up. But we're back at the drive-through. The radio starts getting kind of weird, and a song starts playing. Someone standing behind you. The like order screen of the drive-through starts getting all wonky, and then a beer delivery truck backs into them. Did you recognize the brand of that beer delivery truck?
I looked for it, but I missed it, so I didn't see it.
It is the same beer truck from the second movie on the highway scene. Remember the drunk driver of the beer truck? Drink responsibly.
I love it. I like this connection. That's great.
And then the moving truck that was parked on a hill just becomes a runaway truck and starts barreling down towards them. Someone's
and so they're like pinned
behind you.
Someone's driving behind you.
No one's driving behind them. The truck is fucking runaway truck.
They're pinned in. Someone comes in for another order behind them, and then we don't know this at the time, but Frankie Cheeks is in front of them, and they're trying to beep at him to try to get him out of the way, and he just flips him the bird.
So then they can't get out. So then Kevin kicks the windshield.
Smart.
Heady play. and then they escape just in time. And then the truck crashes into the car. The engine of the truck then flies out of the front through Kevin's car,
which is
or is it a pickup truck? Is Kevin drive a pickup truck?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, I think it was a car. I'm just saying that Frankie Cheeks was a convertible. Sorry.
Yes, Cheeks was in the convertible. So the engine of the truck then flies through Kevin's car and then into the back of the head of what we now know is Frankie Cheeks, and the fan at the front of the engine just slices into the back of Cheeks's dome.
But this reveal is they're on the ground. It happened.
Oh, it's a great reveal. So they're on the ground, they're spattered in blood because of this fan that just hacked away at this dude's head.
What do they see?
And then they look, and we don't know who the guy in the convertible is. And then they look on the ground, and it's a bloody stripper pendant chain, not Frankie Cheeks. And then the camera just slowly pans to a dead Cheeks with an engine fan lodged in the back of his head. And then as the music starts crescendoing, the engine fan just gives one more whirl, like and it just splits his head in two.
It's a pretty great death.
Oh, I love this death. And honestly, Frankie Cheeks deserved it.
What a way to go out. I think the best part about this death is the anonymity of it, and that we don't know who it was until the last second there.
So then Wendy and Kevin are back in Wendy's room looking at photos. Again, they're kind of like moving some storyline a bit.
From here on out, it's just a lot of looking at photos.
It's all looking at photos. Well, they look at a photo of Carrie, and then Kevin was just like, I was going to propose to her after graduation. First off, she was going to dump you after graduation.
Major
you're gonna propose to her after high school?
I agree. It's just like babies babies making babies kind of feeling. Like you're a little too young there, folks.
So they're trying to find clues in these photos, and they're looking at a photo they took of Frankie Cheeks, and they can't really find anything that would make it an engine. And then they see the upskirt shot that Kevin took, and in the background of just this giant close-up of some camel toe is old Cheeks himself, and he's standing next to a fan. And honestly, this is the way Cheeks would want to go out. Being remembered, his face next to just a giant upskirt shot. It's how Cheeks would have wanted it.
This is my first problem with the photos. Is the photo the clues are just like the people in the background like that. So it's like now we have to work extra hard to find the clues because it's not like the photo of the person. Now you have to look at the people in the background, which is just like even more stupid.
Yeah, because the next photo they look at is Lewis, who's doing like the strongman challenge. They're trying to find clues, but then they go into they see in the background on one of the rides like a cartoon guy, a cartoon sultan wielding swords, and then they're like, all right, well, oh my god, like isn't Lewis playing for State University? They're the Sultans.
One, I can't believe just this generic State University made me laugh, and two, I can't think of a public university that would use sultans as their name.
State University Sultans has a good ring to him, not gonna lie. And then Kevin just like, I don't want to see the photo, I don't want to know, whatever. And then he's just like, one more thing, the photo, is it bad? There's nothing up my ass, right?
If you knew how your friend was going to die, would you tell him?
Wow, if I knew, you know what? Let's take a pause in the movie here before we get to Lewis's death. If I knew how you were going to die, would I tell you?
Right.
Oof. I don't know. Because also, I feel like I would just make you. I feel like you would turn into Clear in the second movie, and you just like lock yourself into a into a room. I don't think I would. I don't think I'd tell you.
I don't think I would either because I think the reaction of the friend I was telling would probably be like, "You're crazy. I'm not going to be your friend anymore." They wouldn't believe me, you know?
I don't think I would. And
Like,
I honestly I'd probably be in denial too. I would just be like, oh, like that's not actually gonna happen. And then it would happen. And I would be like, oh well shit.
well, and also like these photo clues, like they don't spell out like, "Hey, you're going to get hit by a bus." It's mainly like, "Hey, there's some like sticks in your photo and there's some like fire in your photo." So I would just like stay away from anything revolving. You know, like it's very open ended to what could actually kill you. So that could be a problem too. But I don't think I would tell the person. I'd just be like, it's so tough. You know what I mean?
We'll put it on a poll. So
Yeah.
so we are at the State University Training Center. Go Sultans. Uh there's
Fuck the Bruins.
fuck the Bruins. The fuck is a Bruin anyway?
I love how they're actually punching a bear as
And
they
then
work out.
oh yeah, they have a giant stuffed bear that they're punching for motivation. No, I love it. Fuck the Bruins,
Fuck,
man.
fuck the Bruins.
And again, there's another scene where they yell "fuck the Bruins" in the background, and just hear "the fuck is a Bruin anyway?" And I'm like, as someone who hates UCLA, I feel
Oh,
that.
well, I was thinking Boston Bruins.
Yeah, I don't want to say, but so
Yeah, I got you.
yeah, fuck the Bruins. So there's two swords hanging up. So we got two swords hanging up, and then there's words that say "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Okay. Lewis was on, I think it was like a lat pull down. Is that what he was doing? I don't know what I don't this may come
Yeah,
as a surprise.
you're
I'm not really much of a gym rat, so I'm not sure
you're
what
asking the wrong
machine
person.
he was using. Yeah, I don't really know either. That's embarrassing.
He's lifting weights.
Yeah, I'd probably be in better physique if I went to like Planet Fitness and wasn't recording Final Destination podcast, but that's okay. I there was just like they were kind of explaining to Lewis like, "Hey man, like you got to be careful here. Like this won't turn out good for you." And Lewis just like, "No man, fuck that, fuck that. Like I'm a boss. Like fuck all you guys. Like I'm not worried about death." It was very
That's
Eugene
scared of me.
vibes.
Yeah, he was very like not having it. Which
And so then after like a chain of reactions caused by the finger of the stuffed bear, fuck the Bruins, getting like flown off. The swords then fall, but they miss slicing Lewis, but they slice like part of the machine, part of like the pulley system. And then Lewis is just like, "What'd I tell you, Kevin? Fuck death. Fuck death. Fuck." Apparently, a lot of these fucks were ad lib too. And then he just gives it one more rep, and then two like heavy pieces from the machine clamp down and just sandwich his head.
it's a it's a great final death. Final like it's a great way to die in terms of this movie. Like it's entertaining. This is my it went on too long scene death. I think
Same.
what
It took forever.
it took forever and who has actual swords like that hanging? Like those would be plastic swords. Come on now.
And then so then Wendy and Kevin are just outside the football facility, and like they're wearing Sultan's gear now too. Like they stopped at the bookstore.
Wait, I'm so glad you picked that up because I picked up that Kevin is carrying a bag full of like gear, and I'm like, oh, so you stopped at the bookstore after Lewis's death?
Yeah, because they got spattered with blood, so they probably like changed.
It's good.
I don't know if you caught this, but that football stadium is Thunderbird Stadium at the University of British Columbia. And funny enough, obviously the State University Sultans have the same colors as University of British Columbia.
Oh, I love this fun facts. I like it. I did not know that. I didn't recognize the stadium as a football stadium here in the States. So it makes sense that it's in BC then.
U Sport, baby. And okay, can I pass you the ball here? Because I don't want to talk about this fucking hardware. You're talking about scenes that went on too long.
Okay,
This fucking hardware store scene. Jesus, the end product was fantastic. It was like a 10-minute buildup.
I take back what I said about Lewis's scene. Lewis's scene like is a quick flash compared to the hardware scene because so they basically go to Aaron and Ian to warn them. They're like, hey, that's coming for you guys. And they talk for like 15 half. It felt like half of this movie was them at the hardware store. Because I'm sorry, because Ian and Aaron work there, and they're the only two there after hours.
I literally have written down in my notes, quote, Bauer, you got to explain this one. This scene dragged out for so long. I couldn't keep track of what caused shit to fall and shit.
There are so many miscues, and like they're like so basically they're like doing like menial work, like setting up stuff and putting back things from customers and all that stuff. And there's so many miscues of like what objects are actually going to kill them. And this is also the scene where Wendy kind of like figures out more about like how to like cheat death here. And it's like if you save a person and throw off the order, kind of like what they've talked about in the first two movies, that like we can beat this, and they're and she's so this scene they're kind of like piecing it together. And I think Aaron and Ian are basically just telling her like you're fucking crazy.
And so then does she technically save Ian from the falling
Yeah.
wood?
So I guess so. Ian's photo, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, is like he's like shooting something, and he has like a nail gun earlier in the scene where he's like shooting pigeons with the nail gun, and he's got like dye right on the banner like in the photo, and so Wendy sees like the same type of banner at the store that's going to cause it somehow, and then there's like piles of wood that come down, and she shoves Ian out of the way, and all this stuff comes down from the shelves of hardware stores. They go so high up into the ceilings. There's stuff, bunch of random crap. And in the midst of her Wendy pushing Ian out of the way and the stuff coming down, Aaron just gets thrown to like the edge of the aisle, and she hits the nail gun, and the nails just go right through her skull.
And not just through her skull. Her arm was in front of her face, so they went through her skull, through her face, through her forearm too. So like it was gruesome. Like her arm was pretty much nailed to her face. It was gruesome. I was like, oh, that one, oh, like again, great end results, but just the build up, like, come on.
If this scene was like 7 minutes shorter, this death would be so much higher on my list.
I agree. I 100% agree. And the other thing with the photo is that in the photo, it's kind of like a Wild West carnival game they're playing, and so Ian is pointing the gun at Aaron in the photo.
Correct. Good catch. I also love. This is going to sound really dark, but like Lewis's death. I mean, his head explodes, so he's dead. Frankie Cheeks, R.I.P. His death. He gets hit in the head and dies right away. Aaron doesn't die right away, and the like creepiest part about this, or the scariest part about this, so the nails go through her head and skull, head and hand, and like the camera lingers on her for a second, and you just hear her go like whimper, and you're just like, oh, she's not dead yet. And
I know exactly what sound you're making.
I don't want to like I don't want to make it so people can cut it out and just like you know what I mean? But like she just makes like a sigh, like a whimper sigh type of, and it's just like, oh, she's not dead yet. That's just scary.
So then we go back into Wendy's room, and they're trying to figure out, well, who's next, because in the photo of the roller coaster, they notice there's like some mystery people in the car in front of them. They can't see their faces. But then when she like enhances the photo, she sees a bracelet that her sister wears, and she realizes that it was her sister that was sitting in front of her on the roller coaster, and so she's next. So when she tries to figures out what's happening, the sister is at some we'll call it a colonial celebration.
It's their city's tricentennial. I had no like what is going on here.
It seemed like your type of party.
Hey, my favorite line of the movie is Jason, or no, I'm sorry, not Jason, Kevin going, fuck Benjamin Franklin. Fuck you, Benjamin Franklin.
Damn it, I was about to get to that. But yes, yeah, so also one of my favorite lines. Spoiler alert. Kevin's like, so Wendy calls Kevin like, we gotta go to that festival, and Kevin's like, yeah, I'm working security at the event, but it's like, hey, we probably got to take the look at the photo so we know what to expect. Wendy's photo is kind of just like her just standing with Jason, but the camera moves, so like Jason's face was blurred, but she can't really tell. And then she looks at Kevin's picture where it was like a flash that she took after Kevin took the upskirt photo, like, fuck you, I'm gonna flash this camera in your face. And so it's just like a really bright flash in his face. And it's like, yeah, it's like a big flash in your face. It kind of looks like, and then Kevin's like a firework blew up in my face. And then the camera just pans to a very large fireworks display.
It's pretty obvious. This movie is fairly obvious when it comes to like clues and deaths and stuff, I think.
The Colonial Celebration looks pretty lit, and then you see a kite flying in the sky, and then
Well,
a guy playing Ben Franklin's like, let's hope for some lightning. And then we get to the line, fuck you, Ben Franklin.
It's a great line. It's a great line delivery. I was confused at first because it feels very July 4th. And I was like, wait, wasn't school graduations just like 2 weeks ago? Like, how is it already July 4th? But I guess it's the tricentennial of the town, which also doesn't kind of make sense because it's a very West Coast feeling town.
No, but it's New York.
Oh, is it New York? I'm sorry. I thought it was more West Coast.
No. I think all these movies take place in New York or the Northeast. So, or maybe it's PA, but no, it is the Northeast.
All right, my bad. Well, the clue is that subway scene at the end. It feels very New York.
Whoa. Don't even talk about that scene yet because we're getting to that.
Sorry,
Stop it. So now Wendy's driving to the festival. She turns on the radio. Someone standing behind you, and we see it's Ian in his van, and it's like, oh shit, like what's Ian about to do? And she's kind of putting like two and two together where like Ian has the gun and stuff, but even though it's like, hey, like, you know, the nail gun already happens, but like what if that wasn't like, you know, the reason?
Yep.
So much shit went down in this festival, but it's important to notice that the bracelet that Wendy's sister is wearing, Julie, has a horse on it. And so there's a horse, there's a fireworks show, some kids mess with the horse, a bunch of chain reaction semantics. All you have to know is that Wendy's sister ends up just getting dragged by the neck from this horse and almost gets shredded by some like farming equipment, but Kevin saves her. So
which throws off the
loop. So right as Kevin saves her, Wendy's friend was just like, Julie, who was sitting next to you on the roller coaster? And then the horse like pulls out a flag that was on the ground because it's still going crazy. And then Wendy's sister's friend who was with her, like her two friends kind of like look at each other like, what are they talking about? And then this random girl, don't even know her name, just gets impaled by a flagpole.
And she like kneels down and she starts to like shimmy down the flagpole. It's like, ooh, that's
she didn't even see it coming. It was just like,
nope.
It was quick.
Nope. This is where the photos come into a major problem because this whole movie is them trying to figure out the clues, and in like 2 seconds, Wendy figures out 2 clues right away and is like, "Oh, Ian is the cause of my death because he's wearing a McKinley shirt."
Oh yeah,
it's like,
and his last name is McKinley.
Yes,
and McKinley. What happened to President McKinley?
Oh, good point. Assassinated.
Abe Lincoln. The horse then kicks Kevin into a like grilling barbecue area, and then the propane from the grill explodes into Kevin's face. And first I'm just like, call back to the ending of number 2. No, you kind of see like in the photo a bright flash in his face, but then Wendy saves him. And then Wendy realizes, oh, well, this means my death is next. She's going to be murdered by Ian. So then Ian confronts her, and they've kind of put two together like, oh, Ian's going to cause her death. Ian has a gun. He's going to shoot them. And then like a firework thing malfunctions and starts shooting fireworks at Ian. And then he does the classic Final Destination where he survives and gets cocky as shit. And it's like, oh, I'm not dying. You're the one that's dying.
He
And
does a
then
Lewis.
and then a cherry picker that had a giant banner similar to the banner that was over him in his photo falls over and just smushes him.
But not like a paper banner or like a cloth banner, like a wood banner,
A
wood
wood
sign.
a wood banner that splits him in half when this cherry picker falls.
And Ian goes out the way he came in, flipping everyone off.
And so originally, this was how the movie was supposed to end.
Oh,
I don't know if you knew this. This was the original ending, and then they like focus grouped it, and they're like, "This ending's horrible," so they reshot the ending.
do you agree?
Oh, I'm glad they reshot the ending
Oh.
because I love this ending. And this was like the first time where this actually felt like a real movie. So I'm gonna call ISO here. All right, just excuse me. This was like the first time where I'm like, this is a good movie scene. I love this scene. You're shaking your head.
Go ahead. You called
Okay.
ISO.
So 5 months later, Wendy's on the subway with some randos. And then she starts getting weird feelings again. There's a guy with an acoustic guitar playing on the subway. Someone's standing behind you. She's looking at these different ads on the subway. There's a fast food restaurant ad, a hardware store ad, and an ad for a tanning salon. She looks in kind of like the mirrors on the subway to know who's coming on and off. She sees that it's subway car 180. As she's like pulling into the stop, she realizes that when the subway's moving, the people's faces, they look blurred, like the face next to her. And she realizes this is probably going to be the time. And then it gets to the stop. And then on the subway intercom, end of the line, the next stop is the end of the line. A familiar voice, Alex Bauer?
Is it Mr. Tony Todd?
It seems to be the voice of Mr. Bloodworth.
Oh,
The end of the line. So she's like, I got to get off this fucking train. So she tries to get off, but then there's all these Bruins fans who are going on to the train and they're like, go Bruins, go Bruins. And they keep like bumping her and she can't get off. And they're like, go Bruins. I was like, oh no, fuck the Bruins. and on the way to that platform they're pulling into, a bunch of Bruins fans like threw their trash like onto the platform, whatever. Right on pretty much not on the platform, but onto like the tracks near where like a little kind of like lever is. So they've been getting on the train, but then Julie gets on the subway and it's like, oh, like family reunion, they're talking, whatever. And then they see that Kevin's on the subway. And at this point, Wendy's like, oh shit, because she and Julie are talking. And Wendy's like freaking out. And Julie's like, it's been 5 months. We've gone over every scenario. Like, we escaped it. We're good. And then they see Kevin. And then Kevin's kind of talking like, yeah, I'm just coming up, whatever. And then it starts to hit Wendy like, oh, fuck. The trash that the Bruins fan threw onto the track it was being eaten by a rat, and then the rat like bites through whatever he was eating and it bites into some like wiring and stuff, and then the track gets all kind of fucked out like a split, which by the way, like rats screwing up electrical stuff is like a real thing.
100%.
And so then because like the track gets messed up, the subway car goes like straight through it and just crashes. It gets split. One real just insane thing about this subway crash is the way it happens is it kind of like jackknifes. And so the back of the subway car kind of ends up going in front. And then the lead train just splits one of the cars in half. Big explosion, still going. of course, everyone's freaking out, just getting killed left and right. There's one point where they go by uh, another car, and she sees like the blurred faces of people about to die, kind of like in the photo. And then Julie gets like killed by some debris, and then Kevin gets like thrown out a window, and then the window is cracking because it's leaning up against a wall, and there's sparks flying everywhere, and then the window breaks and Kevin's head falls through, and the sparks big flash up in his face just like his photo. He flies out and just turned to nothing, gets turned to ground beef, like just gone, gruesome. And then the subway car just crashes, and everyone around Wendy is dead, but she's still alive. And then she looks up, she can't move, and there's an oncoming train, and it's just about to barrel into her. But then she wakes up. Second premonition.
Second premonition.
I give him props for doing something different.
And so then it goes back to right where Kevin's was saying, like, oh yeah, I just like bumped into here. And then Wendy is just like, oh my God. And she's like, just a tear rolling down her eye. And they look like, what's wrong? She doesn't say anything. And Kevin and Julie are just like, oh fuck, it's happening again. And so like they're pulling the emergency escape. They're trying to get out of the train. Nothing's happening. And they know. And then they can't get out. And then right as you hear the subway about to crash, it goes to black and the credits roll. So you don't know that they die, but like you kind of know that they die. End of the movie, credits roll. And I don't know if you caught this, but someone's laughing at the very end of the credits. You hear a familiar voice with a maniacal laugh.
Did you make it that far, or did you look that up?
I saw it on the IMDb trivia. I fast forward just to get to the end of the credits.
Did you listen to it?
I read it before I even watched it.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, so you're just like, just time's a ticking.
So I gave my thoughts on it. I loved this ending. I've seen this movie before. I totally forgot about the ending. I totally forgot about the second surprise premonition. And like for me, without it, I would have said this movie was terrible. Like just not a great movie with a lot of potential. I think this movie was saved because of that ending.
I think someone needs to take you off to the crazy house or a sane asylum, because that is a wild take that this movie could be saved by one scene and it's the end.
This ending scene is going to be ranked up pretty high in my
Why do you
final
like
rankings.
Why do you like it so much?
Dude, we ride the T all the time. Dying in a fiery subway is a legitimate fear.
I've never feared dying in the subway once. I feared being trapped in the subway, but not dying.
Let's take a look at all the premonitions that have happened so far. And so there's 4 premonitions in 3 movies now. And
right.
And like remember the
there's
first time
there's 2 clear front runners for being the worst, and there's 2 ones that are below it. And it's the fear of flying and the fear of the roller coaster is by far the most fearsome of the 4 for me.
But the second premonition was the most like fun and everything that led up to it. But the way they put everything together, just the tiny little details, Tony Todd's voice on the intercom, end of the line, the different advertisements, the Bruins fans, like every little thing they could kind of sprinkle in there, they did. And in terms of just an absolutely gruesome premonition, like I thought it was more gruesome than the plane crash. Obviously, the highway crash is iconic, so it's not better than that. Obviously, I thought the second premonition is better than the first premonition of this movie.
No, I disagree 100%. in terms of like the fear factor, the roller coaster easily beats out the subway for sure. In terms of the deaths, the roller coaster beats out the subway. In the subway, it's pitch black. I can't see anything. They're all like being lit up by the sparks, and it's like I can't see anything. It's hard to like get into the scene. Um, Also, it has the fault of coming at the end when you really don't care anymore, and the scene doesn't really build up to something. It's like an epilogue more, and it's more just like an afterthought than it is to really closing the knot of the story on these characters. It is kind of hard to believe that like since we live in such an era where everyone is so readily available that like you two best the two people that you know really well from this experience that you just happen to run into, and it's like I had no idea you were here. You
It's
know,
2006. Come on.
that's what I'm saying. Like that, it's a product of its time because you can able to do that back then.
I love the surprise premonition, but
I
I liked the build up.
it
I liked, but I also you say you say it was pitch black as the subway. I really liked the lighting of this scene.
no,
Because
I did.
because the lighting of the subway reminded me they used like the same kind of dark
They
blue
did.
hues like in the like during Bloodworth's first scene in the first movie. It was the same type of lighting, which I liked.
They did for sure, 100%. I don't agree. I agree with you there. I just think that like you go out, you end a movie in such a way that it felt like 10 minutes short. You know what I mean? Like it conclude anything. It didn't. We did. Well, oh, so
It did
she's like,
conclude. We killed it. This was the first time where all the main characters were killed off.
were they? I mean, it cuts their fates are unknown.
They do. They couldn't get off. They couldn't get out. Right as the train crash. It's clearly that they die. It's and that's
It's clear.
it is very clear they don't survive that because by the time the movie ends, it got past the point of no escape. And that's the other thing too is that you think that's terrifying. Imagine like they know what it is like having a premonition. Like they know what's coming. Like it's happened a second time now, and it's like, oh fuck. Like they know they're fucked. That is terrifying. Like knowing that, oh, I'm about to die in a fiery accident and there's nothing I can do about it
Oh,
this time. And I have the experience from it already happening. I already escaped it once.
no. Also, a couple things. Knowing this how the subways work, there is a great distance between the two stops. It felt like they were going on forever. It's never that. It's never that much of a distance where they don't open up the doors, and because in the premonitions that we've seen, the main characters have had the ability to get out or escape it before it happens, and this one they're not, which I guess is a little bit more on the frightening side, but it doesn't line up with the premonitions that we've seen so far. It just seems more random. And knowing that it was tacked down at the end, it totally feels like something a rewrite. We have to do something for the ending. So
Yeah, they did because the ending would have sucked if they left it at Ian's death.
well, yeah, Red Eddie's death for sure. But I would have liked it like a little bit more like a little bit more of the aftermath of that tricentennial event than 5 months later in a random New York subway.
Well, another piece of trivia I found was that they originally wanted to get AJ Cook and Michael Landis to just be like passengers on that train.
Oh, really?
Well, according to the trivia, it said that they wanted Kimberly to be like Julie and Wendy's cousin, but then that wouldn't make any sense because then Wendy'd be like, oh, the same shit happened to my cousin. I think it would have been great if they could get both of them, but they were just like random
Yeah.
people sitting on the train.
No, for sure. Or just have like all the characters come back and have just be passengers on the train. That would be funny. Um, I also feel like this ending, not to spoil what comes ahead, like these characters don't come back. I don't think so. If
They
I
do not. They're all dead.
if my memory serves me right. So it's just kind of like they're like teasing a sequel here a little bit, but it goes nowhere. Like these characters go. I mean, yeah, they die for okay. I think that's worse though. It's just like, why do I care in the sense like they just die. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we get a little bit more invested into these characters if we follow their story through multiple movies. No,
Where they're gonna, but that's the thing. But like I mean, you could say that for every movie. The only person who's been in terms of quote unquote victims who've been on other movie was Ali Larter as Clear Rivers, and she was obnoxious in the second movie. I wanted her to die so quickly.
Oh, but I I agree that she acts bad, but like her character is like, oh, she's familiar. I'm rooting for her because I know her. You know.
I was never rooting for Clear.
All right, fine.
It's why
I
she got it's why she got a bad death.
agree to disagree. If we're
This is the
ranking
first time we've like disagreed on something.
if we're ranking the premonition deaths, the subway one is number 4. Absolutely 100%.
I put it at number 2.
That's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
I have some more trivia for you.
Please go ahead.
The special edition DVD Thrill Ride edition also included an optional feature called Choose Their Fate, allowing viewers to make decisions at several points in the film, kind of choose your own fate film. Most provide only minor alterations to the death scenes, but the first choice allows the viewer to stop Wendy, Kevin, Jason, and Carrie from boarding the roller coaster altogether, and then just the film ends immediately.
Wow, okay.
Filming took 3 months, with the first 2 weeks spent shooting the whole carnival scene and the roller coaster derailment. The cast members on the roller coaster had to ride it 20 to 26 times every night during like the 3 days they filmed the premonition scene. And to make the roller coaster look longer, they had to use like different mirrors and stuff. So when they had shots that were mirrored, they had to wear clothes that had like McKinley spelled backwards.
Oh, interesting. Can I read you this review that someone wrote about Miss Mary Elizabeth Winstead? Someone
Yes.
someone from the BBC, it doesn't say who, wrote, and I quote, "The real tragedy is that promising young actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead must endure this torture." Just a critical pan of this movie. I don't think it's that bad, and I don't think she's. I think she's the best part of this movie in terms of like acting.
Oh, absolutely. And there's definitely like so you can find on YouTube there is like an hour and a half documentary about how this film was made that I watched
Oh my
afterwards.
god!
And I
Did you really?
I watched it like at like double speed and then fast forward some stuff, but there's some scenes I wanted to see how they made it. And then I used that to cross reference a lot of the trivia that was put on IMDb. Here's another great trivia. Sam Easton, who played our beloved Frankie Cheeks, almost didn't get the part because his receding hairline made him look too old. Thank
Oh.
God for the Kangol.
Oh my god, Frankie Cheeks.
Here's one that I think you'll like too. Ashley Tisdale auditioned for the role of Aaron, but lost.
Actually, wow. I mean, she would have been perfect for it.
Uh, Vanessa Hudgens auditioned for the role of Julie, but lost that too.
Wow, interesting. This cast would have been stacked if that would have happened.
And then my last bit of trivia is the entrance to the Devil's Flight roller coaster. It says no exit after turnstiles. I'll see you soon.
Oh, I like it. I like it. I have. Do you want to know about your beloved Sam Easton?
See you live.
He quit acting in 2013.
I did see that on the IMDb.
He also played. He also was in a movie in 2006 called Cross, where he plays a character named Chauncey. So in 2006, he plays two characters named Frankie Cheeks and Chauncey. My guy's getting some great names.
Phillips?
This is the height of Chauncey Phillips, no?
Yeah, 04. Yeah,
Yeah.
04, 06. Yeah. I don't know another Chauncey, if I'm being totally honest.
I mean, there's like famous English writers, Chauncey, but yeah.
All right. It's that time of the episode. Let's rank some death scenes. Bauer, you go first. What's number 8?
It's so hard. So I'm going to go with, are we talking about the scene or the actual death?
It's the scene. We judge it based on the scene because,
Okay.
like, if you
Then
look at the first one, like, I loved Miss Luton's death, but the scene
Yeah.
kind of took too long.
So the worst death scene is the hardware store.
See, I have I have number 8. I have Lewis at the gym.
Okay. That's my number
Um,
7. They're both
and
bottom
and
tier.
and and my number 7's the hardware store also.
Okay.
Good
I
good
think
and good endings, but they dragged too long. The only reason I put the hardware store up there was because that one was just gruesome. And it's like you said, like she wasn't actually dead the last time we see her.
you're right, 100%. The hardware store for me just goes on way too long. I think Lewis's death at the end is a little bit more gruesome, so that's why it gets a notch above for me. But the hardware store and Lewis definitely the worst death scenes of this movie.
All right.
Number 6. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the friend who gets impaled by the flagpole. It's a cool death, but like it's just a random friend. We don't really know that much about her, and it's kind of like a 5-10 second thing. It's cool, but like it's kind of like a forgotten kill for me.
For number 6, I'm going Ian crushed by the cherry picker or split in half by that
Mm.
sign. I really hate when they're just like, see, I'm not gonna die. And then like, I mean, yeah, it was pretty gruesome, but it seemed just so predictable. And that's why I have as my number 5 the friend getting impaled by the flagpole, just because yes, it was very quick, but it was who's sitting next to you on the roller coaster, and they look at
It,
each other like what, and then bam.
if she was more of a character, that would have been higher on my list, but it was kind of a forgotten character.
Not for it's a character we just met at that moment,
That's but
which in a way I kind of liked, and that's what bumped it to number 5
I
for me.
think she was there at the amusement park, but we don't. I mean, she doesn't talk or anything. But
What'd you have for
next,
number 5?
um, I would probably go Subway
Okay,
because of the reasons that we've talked about. I don't think I have to go any further.
that's fine. What do you have for number 4?
I'd go Ian. Same kind of thing where I hate the obviousness of it, where it's like, oh, you can't kill me, and then he dies. But the impaling is so well done, and then the last shot of him like kind of flipping off the camera a little bit, I thought was kind of cool. So I go Ian.
My number 4, I'm going with the roller coaster premonition.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, roller coaster are terrifying. Also, like one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit was that as much as I loved Frankie Cheeks yelling, "Show me your titties," then dropping the camcorder, the roller coaster crashed anyway, camcorder or not. So there were some things that like, that weren't really like necessary. And again, like there wasn't enough in the premonition that like really kind of stood out other than Kevin getting split in half.
For my number 3, it's the roller coaster premonition. Lot of being thrown around, but I would just like have that fear of being thrown from a roller coaster, which kind of elevates it. Also, Lewis getting smacked is a memorable thing for me. And like we talked about, like they did a really good job setting up these characters when the premonition happens. So like when the scene actually happens, you're like, oh, you have some feeling towards what happens.
All right, my number 3, I'm going with Ashley and Ashlyn at the tanning salon. Not bad. Honestly, these are pretty 2, 3, 4 for me were pretty interchangeable.
Mhm.
This one, the nudity was tasteful, and I did like how by the time it was done, you don't even remember the nudity because it was just so gruesome. Again, like
Yeah.
I get the heebie-jeebies just like with skin burning like um, but just the way they got pins, the the gust through the vents that knocked over the plant and then the shelf and blah blah blah, and like in a tanning, I don't think you even have stuff hanging up in a tanning salon like over the
Yeah,
bed.
I have no
So
idea. It's a strong contender. I haven't picked it yet, so it's definitely my 1 or 2. So
what is your number 2?
I'm gonna go with tanning. Just for all the reasons that you said, and I think one of probably my greatest fear is being buried alive or being trapped in an enclosed space, very claustrophobic. So that part I was just like turning my head away. I couldn't watch the scene. It's a pretty gruesome kill, being burned alive as well. It is a little bit on the like, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch that had to happen, but all in all, it's a pretty gruesome, exciting death scene for a horror movie. So my number 2 is definitely that.
My number 2, I'm going with the subway premonition.
Boo.
Look, I explained to you. I need to justify myself. I really like this ending.
Fuck the Bruins.
It was fuck the Bruins. It was a strong contender for number 1, but it's looking like we have the same number 1. And I think if it wasn't that character who died, then the subway premonition was my number 1. But I mean, number 1, come on, man.
Number 1 is because it's the most like there's not a lot of things that happen where you're just like, that is so unbelievable that had to happen. I feel like it's the most realistic in a sense, if that makes sense. That made it the most entertaining for me. Like, again, being trapped in a car, trying to figure out how to way to get out, and you feel like the death is going to be one of those two, and it's not. I feel like our favorite deaths so far in the series have been the unpredictable deaths, and this was definitely the most unpredictable death of this movie.
I thought the subway one was pretty unpredictable because I didn't see a second premonition coming. But yeah, the fact that we didn't know it was our guy Cheeks, it kind of makes it heartbreaking.
Your guy.
The bloody pendant on the street is how we find out. The little added touch that it's the same fake beer brand from the second movie. Yeah, clear number 1. And also, I mean, it's just gruesome. Just absolutely gruesome. And I love how they how the music crescendos to him there and they're horrified, and then the music cuts out because the fan gets one more little whirl in just for good measure.
Most importantly, it's the most tense scene, and that's what we're looking for. Like, yes, the death at the end is gruesome and good, and like you're just like, ooh, but the whole scene is so tense and horrific that it's perfect.
It's tense, it's horrific, it doesn't take too long. It's not like there's a chain reaction going on. It's like there's an oncoming truck and you gotta get the fuck out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's gonna do it for this episode of Sip Talk. Barrett, first time we've had some tension here. This subway's really divided us.
Frankie Cheeks, R.I.P.
R.I.P. Frankie Cheeks. We'll see you next time for Final Destination 4. I haven't seen that one. But I heard it's the worst one.
I believe it's called The Final Destination too.
You're right.
So.
The Final Destination. Excuse me. I might get sued. So we'll be back next episode with The Final Destination. And of course, tonight, pour one out for old Franklin Cheeks.